Before starting After Effects, please install the free plugin VC Orb. Go to videocopilot.net/orb and download the version of the plugin designed for your operating system. Now start After Effects and open a 3D Earth connection project. The main composition has a layer called Controller. Here you can find one effect, called 3D Earth Connections. This effect contains two options groups. Let's focus our attention on the second one, Earth Appearance. The first control, Earth Style, sets the map style that you want to assign to the planet. The template includes 5 different styles, so, for example, if you change this value to 2, the Earth look will be changed from realistic into an old map of the world. It is recommended that you insert manually a value from 1 to 5, please do not use the slider. With Enable Clouds, you can decide whether to use the clouds or not. If they are enabled, you can set their amount and opacity. Enable Cities Light shows or hiddens the lights on the cities in the night areas. Sun Position allows you to change the position of the sun, so if you don't want to have dark areas, simply move the sun in front of the world. You can also enable or disable the Earth Haze and set its color and intensity. Each Earth style has its own predefined background, which can be easily replaced. To do that, open the composition called Custom Background and place your image or tint here. If you want to use the Style 4 or Style 5, you can also change the map color. Open the corresponding composition and replace the existing colors in the color control layer. The Countries Highlight Opacity Control slider can be used to adjust the opacity of the countries that you will highlight. You finally have 3 controls to enable and adjust the border lines of all the countries of the world. Run the script, and start placing your points on the Earth. This operation is very easy, just type the name of a city, region, or country in the text box, and press the Enter key. The script retrieves a list of locations. Select the right one, and double-click on it. The coordinates of the selected place will appear in the latitude and longitude text boxes. Now press the Add Point button, and a location pin will be placed in the correct position on the Earth map. In the Layers panel, a new layer with the name of your country or city has now been added. You can also avoid the use of the Search Location function by manually typing the coordinates of a place. This can be useful, for example, if you need to set a point on a specific site of the ocean. This script uses an external service to geocode places, therefore if this service is temporarily unavailable, the script won't be able to find your place. If this happens, the only way to place your points on the world will be the manual insertion of the latitude and longitude values. Using this method, the pins will be named with their latitude and longitude values. Points are placed, even when the country is in the back side of the Earth as to the current visualization. If you want, you can rotate the Earth at any time to see them. In the 3D Earth Connections effect, open the Earth Movement group, and change the Y value of the Earth rotation property. You're free to change the size of a point. Just select it, and increase or decrease its scale. After setting all points, you're ready to create connections. Click on the Connection tab. Select the starting point, hold down the Control key and select the arrival point, then press the Create Connection button. The connection line will be immediately created. As you can see, the connection layer has 2 markers, start and end. These markers establish the speed of the line, so if you move the end marker forward, the connection line animation will be slower. As connection lines are paths, if you want to modify their curvature or height, you need to select a vertex to show line handles. Make sure to toggle on the Mask and Shape Path Visibility button, or they will not be visible. Pull them to adjust the line height, or change its curvature. Another variable that you may need to change is the line slope. Select the connection layer, and press the R key on your keyboard to show the rotation properties. Now change the X rotation. The line height and slope can be used to invert the position of the connection, like in this example. Let's start with connection line options. Each connection line you create will have an effect called connection options. In this effect, you can decide whether to use a solid or a dotted line, or even use them both. Use line color to set the color of the line. Stroke to adjust the thickness of the line. And line opacity to set its opacity. Of course, you can change the color of the dots. Set their size. Modify the distance of the dots with the gap control. The dots can also be animated. Set the speed percentage to change the dot's speed. The direction of the dots animation can be reversed by enabling the Invert Dots Animation checkbox. By default, when a line arrives on the final point, it remains visible, but if you prefer, you can enable the jumping line option. In this way, once the line arrives on the final point, the starting point runs after it up to the arrival point, where it disappears. You can also decide to keep the line visible for some seconds before starting this disappearing animation, simply changing the time offset value. Remember, if you want to create a tapered line, you must first tick on the Line Taper checkbox, and then create the connection. This checkbox doesn't convert a solid line to a tapered line or vice versa. Another useful feature is the possibility to connect images to connection lines. Select the connection layer and the connection object composition from the project window. Now press the Attach Object to Connection button. The object composition will be added into the main composition. This new element can't be resized using the Scale property but by using the Connection Object Scale property. Do you want to use a custom object? It's very easy. Just import and place your custom image into the connection object composition, and turn it to 3D. Remember to respect the direction of the object. Being a 3D layer, the element receives the illumination from the sunlight, and as you can see, it appears quite dark. If you want to get an uniform illumination, just set the Accept Lights off in the Material Option tab. Sometimes, you may need to use different connection objects. To do that, you have to duplicate the connection object composition as many times as the number of elements that you need to use. For example, if you want to create 3 connections and attach 3 different texts, you have to duplicate the main connection object composition 2 times in order to have 3 identical comps. Now modify the content of each composition, adding your text and turning it to 3D. Go back to the main composition, select the first object and the first connection, and press the Attach Object button. Now, repeat the same operation but selecting the second object composition and the second connection, and so on and so forth. The version 2 of 3D Earth Connections is compatible with the Cinema 4D render engine. So if you want to extrude or bevel your connections, you can do it following these simple steps. Change the render from Classic 3D to Cinema 4D. Now select a connection and adjust the parameters of the geometry options. By default, the 3D connection doesn't accept lights. This is the reason why it appears without shading. Open the Material Options tab and turn the Accept Lights on. The connection now receives sunlight illumination. In this case, to achieve a better result you have to adjust the sun position. Of course, you can also play with all material options to get your desired connection appearance. Not just connections, you can also create routes. Open the Route tab. Here you have two choices for your route, a straight line, or an itinerary, where the script will calculate the faster route according to the real existing roads. To create a path, you have to select 2 points from the composition, and press the Create Route button. The route will appear in the routes list. This route has no animation, so it will be visible for the entire project duration, but you can animate it by adjusting the work area start and end. So, move the time indicator to your desired starting point, and drag the work area start. Then move the work area end to set the animation duration. Make sure to select the route from the list, and press the Animate Route button. In case you need to make the route appear or disappear, you can use the Fade In and Fade Out buttons. Click on the Route Color button to set the color of the selected route, adjust the thickness of the path setting the pixels of the path line, and eventually press the Trash button to remove the selected route. 3D Earth Connections includes 9 different pin styles, and a custom pin. You can replace the current pin style with a different one, for example select one or more points, choose from the drop-down menu the pin style you want to use, and press the OK button. If you want to use a custom pin, open the composition called Custom Pin into the Pins folder, and create or place your pin image, but always remember to switch it to 3D. Now go back to the main composition, select the pins that you want to change, then select the custom pin, and press OK. Each pin, excluding the custom pin, has a control layer that you can use to change its color. After placing pins and connection lines, you must set when connection lines start, and when pins appear. Let's start with connection lines. Simply slide each connection layer forward in the timeline, leaving it where you want that line to appear. Do the same procedure with the pins layers. Placing a text or a description on a pin is very easy. Go to the Labels folder and open the Labels Preview composition to see a preview of the available labels. Take note of the chosen label's name, for example Label 9. Now, open the Label 9 folder. Here you'll find 2 compositions, Label 9L and Label 9R. These labels are identical, the only difference is their orientation. Let's just assume that you want to use the Label 9L. Open it, and replace the existing text with yours. If you want to change the color of this label, use the Color Control layer. At this point, duplicate the label as many times as is the number of pins on which you want to apply a label. Replace text and description on each duplicated label. Go back to the main composition, and drag the first label to the timeline. Obviously, the label will not move with the pin, because you need to link it first. So select your label, hold down the Control key, and select the pin with which you want to connect it. Now press the Connect Selected Label to Selected Pin button. If you want, you can manually change the orientation of the labels, simply by changing their rotation values. And repeat this operation for all labels. As you did for pins and connection lines, you now have to adjust the time position of the labels, in order to make them appear at the right time. You also have 5 different counter styles. Modifying the value of the counter is very easy. Just go to the Counters folder, and open a counter composition. Replace text and description, and change the numeric value with yours. The folder Image Labels contains 20 already duplicated image labels. Go to the folder called Image Tab 1, and open the Image Placeholder 1 composition. Place your image or video here. Now open the Image Tab 1 composition, and replace the existing text and description. With 3D Earth Connection you can also highlight countries. Move the time indicator to the time on which you want the highlight animation to start. Then, in the Country to Highlight text box, type the name of the country, select it from the list box, and press the On button. You can choose a different color by clicking on the Color button. If you want to turn off the highlight on the selected country, press the Off button. The fade out will start from the current time indicator position. To completely remove the highlight from the selected country, press the Clear button. If you created several highlights on different countries and you want to remove this effect on all of them, press the Clear All button. To adjust the opacity of the highlighted countries, select the controller layer, and change the country's highlight opacity value. You can add the border line to the selected highlighted country, tick the Enable Border Line checkbox, set the line thickness, and finally select the color. Let's now create the Earth animation. There are a few ways to create it, for example by manually adding keyframes on the Earth rotation and Earth position properties, like in this example. Otherwise, you can create a basic animation, using the continuous animation option. With this method, the Earth will rotate no stop. You can set the rotation speed and the rotation direction, and also choose the rotation starting point. For a more precise control of the animation, you can use the Schedule Animation option. As you can see, controls are disabled. This happens because an animation of the Earth is already active, so you need to press the Remove Earth Animation button to enable these controls. Now select the point layer you want to start from, and press the Go to Selected Point button. The rotation of the Earth will change, in order to have the selected point in the center of the composition. Move your time indicator before the starting point of the first connection, and press the Wait button. Move the time indicator to the point where the connection line has arrived. Now select the second pin, and press the Go to Selected Point button. As you can see, the Earth rotates in the opposite direction to reach the last point, respect to the connection direction. In this case, you just need to add or subtract 360 to the current rotation keyframe value. With the time indicator exactly placed over these keyframes, you're free to change the Earth position as you want. For example, you could change the Z position, or move the Earth along the X and Y axis. In some cases, you may prefer to move the Earth and the Y-axis instead of rotating it. So, tick the No X Earth rotation and take a look at the different results. That's all. Thanks for watching and enjoy 3D Earth connections.